The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the battle for Aleppo is effectively over. The monitoring group says the rebels have suffered a total collapse and it's only a matter of time before the regime takes full control of the city. But the Syrian National Council has told TRT World that it hasn't given up and will continue to fight. Well, Edis Tianshan joins us now from Gaziantep on Turkey's southern border with Syria. So what is the opposition's position on this, Edis?
Well, we're at the Gaziantep office of the Syrian opposition, specifically the intra-Syrian government of the opposition. We have just earlier spoken to the Deputy Prime Minister himself, Dr. Mohammed Wejhi Juma, told us that this report by the Syrian Observatory is partially wrong. He said that the fight for Aleppo is not yet over. He did admit, though, that some of the rebel groups did change locations. They did withdraw from some of the neighborhoods that they were previously holding onto, and they are now regrouping somewhere else to gather their strength. But he said it doesn't mean that they are ready to end this fight for Aleppo yet.
The end of the Aleppo battle means that the rebels have surrendered. We totally deny the claims that the rebels have surrendered. They won't surrender because they are playing a noble role of protecting civilians. They are still there and defending their families and their homes. The humanitarian situation in besieged Aleppo is catastrophic. People there are shelled and killed. They are forced to leave their homes but for no destination. No power or agency in the world could deliver aid to them inside. It's like an apocalypse in Aleppo. People are helpless. We demand the international community secure a safe exit supervised by the United Nations for the civilians trapped there, in order not to go to regime areas or PYD areas, because people who went there are suffering. We need a dignified place to shelter these people.
Edis, the Deputy Prime Minister there, talking about the plight of civilians in eastern Aleppo. We know that thousands have left their home, but there are many more left in an increasingly shrinking enclave.
Indeed, that still is the main concern. An estimated 100,000 are still believed to be stuck in that enclave. And he also did emphasize that those rebel groups on the ground are also in favor of allowing a safe passage, a new humanitarian corridor for those civilians to leave as safely as possible and as soon as possible. But he did tell us that those civilians, that most of the remaining ones are afraid of the idea of having to flee through those front lines to the regime-controlled area. And he gave us some specific examples as to some people being questioned by the regime and even maltreated, some of them, especially young men who are suspected of having participated at any point in the rebellion. They are even detained. So many people don't want to take the risk. And remember that there are many young children as well as the elderly. It is not possible to just flee such an area that is under constant bombardment. And also remember that they are running out of basic necessities like food, water. They already don't have electricity and medical supplies. So he is asking the United Nations to immediately come up with a final solution that could open a corridor, a much desperately needed safe passage for those civilians.
Edis, thank you. Edis Tianshan there updating us on the battle for eastern Aleppo.